We're developing the largest business for the whole history of civilization. This is that Stevenson, Ford and Boeing have made together. This revolutionary transport system is essential for every country, every city, every family and every man. It is essential for humanity. The development of transport innovation rail SKYWAY has taken 36 years and over 7 billions of rubles. For selling the technology, it is necessary to build test sections on which the technology will be certified and demonstrated to the customers from all over the world. For this purpose, in the nearest 3 years, we should invest the assets proportionate to the committed ones. After that, we will become the first in the world transport sector, the volume of which exceeds the Russia's budget several times, and occupy not less than 50% of this market. Boeing is one of the brightest examples demonstrating such facts of history. Empires are to be ruined, the Soviet Union has fallen apart, but its infrastructure, traffic one mostly, has been still functioning, like the Trans-Siberian Railway. That was built a century ago and passed through the revolution as well as civil war and world wars. The track structure of SKYWAY is based on the string rail technology. These tracks will serve for the benefit of the people for ages, bringing the profits to those who once have ventured and invested their money into this innovation technology. Being certified, the project of innovation will turn into the project of investment. Then the base of this technology-targeted transport project will be realized on all the continent of our planet. Every investor, depending on the volume of its committed facilities into this technology, will own kilometers or meters of these tracks. As for infrastructure ownership and its dividends, they will devolve to future generations. Inexpensive, safe, effective roads are not required for the state and government officials, but for ordinary people who pay fares out of their pockets, and these people are not just users, they are taxpayers too, so to say, it is required only for us. For this reason, it was decided to start the innovation corporatization at English law on the terms profitable for investors. New investors have the chance now to buy the shares of our company with large discounts. Today, it costs several thousand rubles, but tomorrow it will cost millions rubles. Let's build our future worth living together, comfortable, safe, ecologically clean, with high living standard. Let's build the future, which will be able to devolve to our children and grandchildren for no shame.
Okay, guys, I think we're ready to start. It's like 8:05, and let's just do it. So whoever comes later, their loss. Good evening, welcome to our webinar. Thanks for signing up and attending. So just to start with, I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Lelda Matroza. I am representing Global Transnet UK, which is a sister's company for SKYWAY here in London, UK. So just a little bit about myself. I don't want to bore you till death, but I've been following SKYWAY for like 1 year now. So how it all started, my background has nothing to do with technology and even more like nothing to do with infrastructure. But like 1 year ago, I invested in SKYWAY, and since then I've been following it. And why I decided to join is because my background is actually in film studies. So the history and actually the film industry shows that whatever is being filmed, let's say in 80s, it somehow comes true, right? So let's say my favorite film is Luc Besson, Fifth Element. So when my friend Armand introduced me to SKYWAY, I was thinking that, well, it kind of looks like a flying train, and if that has been in TV at some point, it's going to come true eventually. So basically, you probably already are familiar with this project, more or less, hence you're joining this webinar, or if not, I'm going to try to keep it as simple as I can, so it's kind of understandable for everyone. So today's topic is modern technology and innovation in the 21st century. 1 second.
How difficult it's now. So everything is actually connected. And one of the also biggest reason to create this technology was to boost up economy. We're not just talking about economy of Belarus or Russia, we're talking about the worldwide, because this project will be everywhere in the world. You name the country and I'm sure we have a project in this country. So therefore this technology now, it's more a need, it's necessity. And we can give you our, I don't know, 100% that it will happen, but you also need to believe in this. That's why from the beginning I mentioned that we're not giving any financial advice, but if you look a bit more detail, you also will be able to have a look and believe that this is all actually happening now. And I have a little video here because it's actually very recently what happened. Unitsky, you can see him on the right hand side, he signed lots of contracts with the people who are investors, and now they're working for SKYWAY. Different countries now involved. So just I will show you quickly this on YouTube so you can have a look, actually a bit more details.